Yeah, good morning once again to everybody, and especially to my Guruji, Dr. Ashok Ahuja, and of course Dr. Kishore. And I am quite happy to be at this Sai LNCP Trivandrum and Athletic Federation of India Athlete Education, Athlete Coaching and Education Program on this day. And as already informed or said by Dr. Ashok Ahuja, that it has been quite apt and necessary in today's world of sports to be well informed about what everything is about doping, because each and every day in the newspapers, in the media, we see about one or the other athlete getting caught or having been found positive for taking a banned substance or awaiting a doping check. So let me take you a brief, a bird's eye view on what doping is. And what I'll be speaking today is the aims and objectives being, first of all, the definition of doping, and why is it relevant to all of us who are involved in sports, along with the administrators, athletes, coaches, and including the parents and the society at large. What are the doping control activities, list of banned substance, and more important is about the practical aspect of what doping control procedure is. What about documentation, what the athlete needs to do during documentation, and one or two points on the lab procedures. Okay. So all these things are standing on a solid foundation of sports medicine, and without knowing what sports medicine is, it is very difficult for us to tell. That is the relevance of sports medicine is anti-doping is an integral part of sports medicine, which and it also deals with conservative aspect. Sports medicine deals with conservative aspects of sports injuries, along with the know-hows of the branches of sports medicine. So these are the various branches of sports medicine. It includes the whole paraphernalia of the medical science subjects from anatomy to obstetrics and gynecology, and further spreading its tentacles to all the departments of sports science. So it is very important for us even to know the things what sports science also has. So I have highlighted the sports pharmacology and doping. Okay, so let me come to the definition, that is, it is an administration or use of any pharmacological substance foreign to the body or any physiological substance taken in abnormal quantity with the sole purpose of increasing the performance by unfair means. See, it never happens, doping or drug intake never happens by chance. So that is the reason why an athlete needs to be very careful, because the sole purpose of taking these performance enhancing substances is to increase the performance and through illegal and unfair means, and it constitutes doping. So what are the anti-doping activities? So anti-doping activities are like we promote anti-doping activities in cooperation with other interest groups, like what we are doing now at this very moment in this webinar with the Sports Authority of India, with LNCP, and all the interest groups are joining hands to educate the athletes and the public at large. So it is also responsible for doping control with respect to the international and national code. Education and information, I already said about this in this webinar. Doping control, like, organization and development of doping tests. It also includes quality systems for doping tests, and it also has a standard protocol worldwide. Maybe it is in USA or in Japan or in India, or even you take your Delhi or Calcutta, wherever, Bangalore, Harvard, wherever. It is a standard protocol followed everywhere. And of course, international activities, and we promote the research activities. And we had conducted one such activity in IMA, Dharwad, Indian Medical Association, Dharwad conducted a seminar on drug abuse. And again, we had presented paper also on physical education, awareness, knowledge. So these are the research activities, and we are spreading the message of anti-doping. So track of Indian sports, and you can always see that for the last 3 years, we have been topping the list in World Anti-Doping Agencies, and in 2017, we were number 3. 2018, we held the spot of the highest number of positive analytical findings in the country, and 2019, also, we were in, I think, second or third spot for having the highest number of positive cases. So now coming directly to the, what are these World Anti-Doping Agency prohibited substance and methods? So this is the latest. So why doping in different sports? So basically why we do this is mainly because of the strength and speed, endurance sports which demand high concentration. That is, like doping is possible in every sport. Okay, even in badminton, athletics, all the sports, like we have this. So there are no shortcuts to being a champion. So always remember, you have to play hard, play fair, and play true. So these are few of the infamous doping offenders, and you can definitely see the person in a red jersey, that is Ben Johnson in 1988 Seoul Olympics. So he was a hero, and overnight he became a zero, and he was caught for one of the greatest doping scandals. And that was a time when actually the International Olympic Committee, along with the international federations, and 10 years later, World Anti-Doping Agency was formed, and Indian government was one of the very first few signatories to the World Anti-Doping Agency code. So when does athlete commits to doping? So here are about 5 to 6 points. That is, he or the athlete's doping sample contains a prohibited substance which proves the use of prohibited substance or methods. He or she has used a method, a prohibited method. An athlete manipulates the doping sample. He or she evades or refuses to take a doping control. He or she promotes the use of doping, example, by smuggling and selling doping substances. Because in this category, we have the doctors, physios, trainers, coaches, anybody can be involved in this. And we have another very important that, thing is, there are another 3-4 clauses where the athlete can be, and even the people, like as I already told, doctors, trainers, coaches, everybody can be involved and sanctioned. So what are these doping substances, group of doping substances? That is, we have this, first is the prohibited substance groups. We have this prohibited methods. We have this prohibited substance group in certain sports. So we have these anabolic agents. The red highlights are like, the most substances, or the athletes use these drugs. Like the highest used are the anabolic agents. We have these hormones and related substances. Beta agonists, we have these asthma medications. And 1% of all international Olympic athletes, they use these asthma medications. We have these agents with anti-estrogenic activity, diuretics, masking agents, stimulants, narcotics, cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are ganja, and of course, glucocorticosteroids. So just a few lines on these, like anabolic agents, they are testosterone derivatives whose anabolic effects are stronger than that of testosterone. Examples are the methandione, nandrolone, stanzolol, and you must be knowing about this designer steroid, the Balco laboratory scandal, where we have this tetrahydrogestinone. Oh, this was the designer steroid, and these are prohibited because they increase muscular mass and strength, affect hormone balance and metabolism. So they prevent overtraining, They induce an early recovery. Overall, an anabolism, that is a positive muscle balance. So why we restrict this is because of the side effects of steroids. Like see, from head to toe, we have these problems, and you can just see this. Like such a sort of physique, and I have done this one of these posters as an educational poster which has been approved by World Anti-Doping Agency, right from head to toe, including the we have this in males. We have this male pattern baldness. Uh, Eyes are yellow colored because of the problems in the liver. Like we have these liver cancers, jaundice, tumors, and prostate cancers. So the immune system is totally destroyed, and there are high chances of infection and premature closure of growth plates in especially adolescent athletes, especially those boys who are less than 18 years old. And actually, to be frank enough, in your age group, if you involve yourself, then definitely it will be a disaster. And there are high chances of risk of getting fractures also. And you have these cardiovascular problems, like heart attacks, sudden cardiac deaths, and kidney tumors. We have even the most important is on the reproductive system. So there is a male infertility, decreased sperm count, increased. There is an increased sexual desire, but decreased sexual performance. So again, in the females also there is enlargement of clitoris, irregular or absent monthly cycles. They have these polycystic ovaries, and which may finally lead, they cannot produce children in their child bearing age. And psychological changes are very prompt. They are very aggressive. They become irritable, quarrelsome behavior. They undergo a lot of depression, and such there are a lot of mood swings, and which leads to suicidal tendencies. So this poster, depicts everything, the problems, what happens when you consume steroids. Now coming to the prohibited methods, we have this enhancement of oxygen transfer, chemical and physical manipulation, and of course the gene doping. So in improving oxygen transfer, you must have heard of this blood doping, where we use our own blood or others' blood, and all preparations containing red blood cells. So just 1 or 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks before any major competition, especially the endurance competitions, I would like to bring your attention to Lance Armstrong. International Cycling Federation banned him because he was involved in blood doping. What happens is they take about 200 ml of the athlete's blood, centrifuge it, and they store the packed cells, and they refrigerate it at minus 30 degrees. And just prior to the competition, about 5 to 7 days before the competition, it is again mixed with saline, and it is infused, or a blood transfusion is done to the athlete. Here what happens is there is a increase in the red blood cells. So once there is a red blood cells, RBCs, there is increase, automatically the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood increases. So research has found out that there is an enhancement of 7 to 12% performance enhancement by this. But along with that, there is a lot of risk in this blood transfusion, like there may be allergic reactions, coagulation disorder, sudden deaths, and there may also be risk when you are using others' blood, like HIV, AIDS, like hepatitis, malaria, and now, of course, we need to know about the COVID-19 infections also. So coming to this chemical and physical manipulation, so it is addition of chemical substance to urine samples like proben acid, proteases, etc. Like recently, you must have heard about this rowing Federation of India's 21-22 young athletes who were like who had taken nutritional supplements, and they came out positive for this masking agent called as proben acid. Probably that nutritional, probably, I don't know, probably that nutritional supplement might have been laced with proben acid. So it's a masking agent. So an investigation has to undergo in that. And again, we have this replacing of urine sample, catheterization, use of condoms by male and female athletes to physically manipulate the samples. So these are the things. Now coming to this gene doping. So actually gene doping is an outgrowth of gene therapy. Gene doping involves insertion of the DNA for the purpose of enhancing athletic performance. So what happens is, you can see this, if the bull is or we can say a gene dot bull. What happens if the same thing is done in the male? What happens? What are the effects of gene doping? You can see the three bodybuilders, what might happen. So you can always have an eye on the third one on your the right side of the screen, and further on, if you see on the left side, gene therapy, which is used for medical purposes, and we have, of course, the gene doping, and a lot of research is being done by the various organizations associated with the World Anti-Doping Agency. And of course, you must have seen this thing, what happens when there is a gene enhancement. So now coming to the prohibited substance groups, in certain sports that alcohol is restricted, okay. And of course, beta blockers. It is these are medicines which are used by hypertension or people having blood pressure, increased blood pressure. So even they are restricted. So always, just about I was talking about the proben acid, about the nutritional supplements. You all should know that there are a lot of problems with these nutritional supplements because of the insufficient product labels. These nutritional supplements may contain impurities which are prohibited substance in sports. They may be precursors of testosterone. What about the controlling process of these preparations? Because none of us control this, at least in a country like India. So it is always recommendable to avoid using preparations claimed to increase testosterone production. The question mark is a written certificate from the, can we get a written certificate from the producer, importer or retailer on that preparation does not contain prohibited substance? No chance. It is not possible. At least in our country, it is not possible. So always we need to concentrate on the proper diet and nutritional habits. And maybe during 2000 itself, about rupees 400 per day was, I'm talking about 2000, when 97 to 99, when I did my post-graduation under Dr. Ahuja in NIS Patiala in sports medicine. That time itself, the athletes were getting about 400, 500 rupees as allowance, daily allowance for the nutritional supplements. Probably in about 20 years, in about 2020, I think they must be getting about 1,500, 2,000 rupees minimum now. So there is always a question mark whether it is advised or not. So now another important thing is that athletes, when they go to a doctor or when they go directly to the pharmacy, which has to be avoided, so they should always remember to ask your athlete. The doctor should always ask about the sport and the level of competition of our athlete. Some prescription, that is over-the-counter medications, are prohibited. So athletes should be very careful. If needed, the doctors can themselves confirm on World Anti-Doping Agency, and now even NADA has opened up a website for consultation. But finally, the athlete has the final responsibility. Even a lot of our athletes, even like way back, Aparna Popat, like a badminton player, she just went out, had a D-cold tablet, and she was, banned for 3-4 months. That is, I'm talking about 2000, just prior to the 2000 City Olympics, and hundreds of cases, such cases have come to our knowledge. And what are the prohibited substance and methods? It's based on the list of International Olympic Committee and World Anti-Doping Agency. They are annually updated. So 1st January 2020 onwards, it is already in move, and again on 1st January 2021, a new list will be updated. So if you can log on to this website, You will always know a lot of things on doping, and all must be aware of the binding rules of the sports association. So doping control is targeted at athletes who participate in organized sports. Test activities are concentrated on top athletes in different sports, but now on anyone. So we always need to be careful. So the new information just recently, I couple of days back, doping samples can be used for gender verification under 2021 code. So sports integrity initiative. So just one of the slides for your knowledge. And now coming to the doping control, this is the practical aspect. So as soon as over the period of time, for the last 20 years, we have been involved in dope sample collection procedure and all these things. And whenever we come to know that, or the athletes come to know that it is a doping control, we have seen that a lot of these athletes just vanish from the camps. Even if they have won medals like gold, silver, or a bronze in a competition, when their names are announced, and they just vanish off, and from that arena, they run away from that arena. So actually, one should not be afraid, because we always need to prove that we are clean, and so the priority is health. So what about this doping tests are conducted by World Anti-Doping Agency, National Sports Federation, expert groups responsible for doping controls in international competitions, and basically like IDTM, SNDT, they are expert groups which also help World Anti-Doping Agencies in collecting samples. And of course, in our country, we have this NADA, National Anti-Doping Agency, which collects these samples. So I was also a gymnast, one of these. I think, the extreme list, Mr. Arun Patil, my coach who served in Trivandrum as assistant director there. He was my gymnastic coach, my Guruji in gymnastics. And what is the control of, what is the purpose of doping control? Basically, to prevent the use of substances and methods which are dangerous to health or which also increase performance. Secure the athletes the right to be honest and fair play. And we all need to respect the ethics in sports and of course, medicine. Health is our main priority. So both urine and blood tests are conducted. So why blood test is because it is to detect the growth hormone, and just about 24-48 hours back, we came to know about one of the athletes, and there was his blood test was conducted, and growth hormone, just 48 hours back, we came to know about one of the athletes, highly decorated athletes who had consumed or injected growth hormone. Some values are analyzed from blood, so and are used when screening athletes for erythropoietin. Okay, and a blood test does not replace a urine test. Both can be done on an athlete. Blood and urine tests are conducted side by side. So what are these test types? We have these three types. That is, one is in competition test, second is the out of competition test, and third is target testing. That is, in competition is as soon as the athletes, as soon as he arrives in the venue or in the city of the competition, maybe he may be taken right from the airport or the railway station or the bus station directly to the doping control station for his sample collection. Till that time, he leaves his the venue. So that is in competition testing. Second is out of competition testing, where a training place or a home place of stay. Here comes the whereabouts clause, and I'll explain about that. And third one is the target testing. So why there is target testing is because you may see overnight there is an increase in performance of one of the athletes, or somebody complains about that athlete with some evidence. So we call them as whistleblowers. So when this thing happens, automatically the testing authorities will go for target testing. So these are the three types. So we need to know that is in competition, so out of competition, and third is the target testing. So the testing pool includes athletes who are recognized, that is national and international, who are registered under that, national top athletes, and they belong to a targeted doping control, and athletes in the testing pool are required to provide the whereabouts information. So what about this whereabouts information? Just we need to know that athletes should provide their whereabouts information primarily on online using anti-doping passport system. So by letter, email, fax, now we have this WhatsApp, or quick updates to the doping control manager, even by an SMS will definitely help. You know, again, we have this whereabouts information must be provided in written form to National Anti-Doping Agency for a period of 3 months. I'm talking about India. Information can and must be updated during each quarter of the year. So now the failure to provide whereabouts information is considered to be an anti-doping rule violation. Okay, so we need to be careful. So just last month we had a couple of these cricketers. Now they were let off because of the whereabouts failure. Again, we have this Olympic decorated Olympic athletes. You know, like Lee. He was a bronze medalist. He was silver and bronze medalist in Olympics. So even he had was suspended because of this whereabouts failure. So now coming to the dope sample collection procedure. So just let me take you through this. What happens actually during this dope sample collection procedure? Okay. So we have these authorized doping control officers, okay, and athletes are notified for dope check. This slide with the first on the left side is a notification. Okay, this is a I've just taken these photographs during the Military World Games, which was in Hyderabad. But I mean, we have the football players being notified by the chevrons, and on the right side you see the venue doping control manager. And the athletes are being escorted to the doping control office. So again we have this. This is a team. This was the cricket anti-doping BCCI anti-doping team done during one of these IPLs, where we have a representative and observer from BCCI, and I was a DCO, and we have chevrons also along with this. This is the team. And now the chevrons notify the athletes. So here you can see one of the athletes in taekwondo, in a taekwondo match where she has won a gold medal. The athlete has won a gold medal, and chevron has notified, telling her that you have won a gold medal and you are supposed to come to the doping control station to provide doping sample. So what happens here is the athletes are once the athlete is notified, they have about 60 minutes. The athlete has about 1 hour time to report to the doping control station. So the athlete will always be under the watchful eyes of the chevron, and the chevron accompanies the athlete wherever he goes. So now the athlete from the venue directly has to go to the doping control station. The rights of the athletes here are that he can attend the medal ceremony. He can also change his dress there itself. He can, but he should not go to his dressing room. He cannot go to the toilet. He cannot have a shower or something like that. This is but when you come to football, the athlete is allowed to take shower, but not in other sports. So that is the reason why we need to know about the rules and regulations of each sporting federation. Like FIFA says, the athlete can take a shower in the doping control station, but not in his dressing room. But he needs to come to the doping control station and he can take a shower, and after that he can provide a urine sample. But many other federations will not allow the athlete to take a shower. So directly from the doping control venue or the venue of the competition, he goes to the doping control office. Station. So here, me as a team doctor for the national football team, I am accompanying 2 of our football players to the doping control station. So they have arrived there, and this was again athlete. The chevrons have brought the athlete to the doping control station. So once you will be asked to show your identity card and give your personal contact and other relevant information. So basically, you need to provide your identity card or identity card given by the competition itself. You are entitled to have a representative present at the doping control. Either your coach, your doctor, your physiotherapist, or even a translator can accompany you. Only one person, and you are entitled to leave the doping control station only with the agreement of the doping control officer in charge and under proper observation. Earlier it was there, but now I think we don't allow the athlete to go out. Only if he has some medical problem, and only if the doping control officer allows him, then he can go. Otherwise, he won't be let out. So now coming to the selection of sample collection vessel. So when the athlete is ready to provide a urine sample, so he will inform the doping control officer that he is ready, and he comes and he sits on the in front of the doping control officer, and these are urine collection containers, and the athlete collects it and he takes it, and he opens it and makes sure, before he opens it, he makes sure that it is unbroken and it is clean. So the athlete is selecting the urine collection kit. Okay. Now the male athlete is accompanied by male assistant doping control or a doping control officer, and a female athlete is always accompanied by the female DCO or chaperone. So what about the supervision of sample collection? So once the athlete is ready, we ask him to provide, minimum urine sample is about 90 ml. So we always motivate, the athlete to give about 100 ml of his urine sample. So here the athlete goes to the toilet and he needs to undress himself. The upper, the tracksuit or the t-shirt has to go up to the chest level, and the lower, the track pant should go up to the knee level. So the athlete should be in a direct view of the doping control officer when he is providing the urine sample. So once the athlete has collected the urine sample, you can just see here that on the table you have the athlete who has come back, and she has placed her urine on the table, and now here she opens up the work kit, So here she is there on the doping control officer's table along with the chaperone, and athlete is there. And now this is the urine about, if you can make out about, she has collected about, given about 120 ml of urine. And these are 2 bottles. That is, if you can see the box, white colored box, we call it as a Berlinger kit. In this white box, when the athlete opens this, there are 2 bottles. That is, we call them as bottle A and bottle B. Bottle A is with orange label, and bottle B is with blue label. So when you open this, you should need to check the number on those, okay, and also see it is sealed. Then open the kit and make sure that the bottles are unbroken, empty, clean. And what about the security codes on the bottle and the seal caps? And they should be identical. They should be same. Okay. Now again, these are now once the athlete has checked, so see the numbers, they are all identical. So the orange color indicates sample A, and the blue color indicates sample B. So now what happens is, the athlete has collected about 100 ml. So a minimum of about 30 ml of this urine is transferred carefully into the B bottle. Okay, B bottle. And a minimum of about remaining 60 ml or whatever left is poured into the orange, that is into the A bottle, orange label. And you should leave a few drops in the sample collecting vessel to check the sample is suitable for analysis. So once you have transferred 30 ml in a B bottle and remaining 60 ml or the remaining urine into the A sample. Now you need to seal the bottles. Okay, so you should close the bottles by screwing the seal caps until clicking stops and the cap cannot no longer be tightened. Make sure that the bottles do not leak and cannot be opened. This is on the athlete's job. So the leftover of the urine in the urine collecting vessel, the doping control officer, he checks the specific gravity and ensures that the sample is suitable for analysis. If it is not suitable, then the athlete may be asked to provide another sample. Okay. So now once the two bottles are sealed, that is, you have locked them properly, and now you need to fill in the doping control form. So you should disclose any medication you have taken over last 7 days, about a week before what you have taken. You should also record any vitamins, if you have taken food supplements, any herbal products that you have taken in last 1 week. It will be noted on the doping control form. And if you are satisfied with the doping control form, control procedure, you may sign the form. And if you are not satisfied, you should give your reason on the doping control form stating why you are not satisfied. Okay, there is a column in that you can give your comments on that. Okay, then again you need to check the numbers properly. You will be asked to carefully check all the information on the doping control form, and particularly to make sure that the security codes of the bottles and the doping control form are identical. And finally, you will then sign the form and receive a pink copy of it. So now the athlete takes those sample A and sample B, and he again puts them back into the Berlinger kit and he seals it. See, right from urine collecting vessel till the athlete is sealing the sample, everything has to be done by the athlete. Okay, if at all the athlete says that or he says that no, I cannot do this, is for the first time I am doing, a doping control officer with his permission and with the permission of the accompanying person can help the athlete in doing this procedure and wearing fresh gloves so that the sample does not get contaminated, and it is in the direct view of the athlete and the accompanying person of the athlete, and we always take signatures about this process. So the athlete is sealing the sample. This is the Berlinger kit. So what about the doping control form? Okay, this is the doping control form. So here it looks quite tough, but the doctors or the doping control officer are trained to fill up these forms. Okay. And other few, this was all about the urine collection and how the athlete was notified, what happens, and finally, and this is about the blood test also. So we check it for EPO, that is erythropoietin and growth hormone, are targeted at athletes in endurance sports. The blood tests are conducted in order to detect use of blood doping and growth hormone. Okay, just for your knowledge. And now coming to the sample. After the control, the sealed samples and the laboratory copies of the control documents are sealed to a transportation bag. The laboratory copies do not contain any information about the athlete's identity. So they are all sealed and there is no information about the athlete on the forms which go to the laboratory. So the laboratory will not know who the athlete is. The samples are delivered to the laboratory approved by International Olympic Committee and World Anti-Doping Agency. So National Dope Testing Laboratory in New Delhi in India is recognized, but I think now maybe it is still under suspension, I think. So this New Delhi has our National Dope Testing Laboratory. So once this sample go to the laboratory, the sample A, first the sample A is analyzed. Okay, so more than about 350 banned substances are analyzed in over 48 to 72 hours they are analyzed, and immediately the test results will be given. So if at all, now considering that if the A sample has been found to be positive, only then sample B will be analyzed. Okay, sample B will be analyzed after request of the athlete and on the expense of athlete or the sports federation. The athlete or his representative has the right to be present when the sample B is analyzed in the laboratory. In the laboratory, the sample B will not be analyzed by the same personnel which perform the analysis of the sample A. So it will be in a different laboratory by a different personnel. So in case the test result of the sample B does not confirm the positive test result of the sample A, the temporary suspension will immediately expire. So this means that if the sample A is positive, so there is a immediate temporary suspension of the athlete till the sample B is again found to be positive for the specified substance. So finally, it is about the clean sports we are talking about. If you could see these two athletes, Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson, so you will definitely come to know the history about everything of what I just spoke now. The pictures themselves are self-explanatory. So clean sports basically. So most athletes are clean. Only 1% of the controlled athletes have used prohibited substances. Therefore, 99% of all the controlled athletes are clean. That's the reason an athlete is clean until he is proven otherwise. So whatever the final say is about the clean sport is what we stand for. So right from the beginning, athletes should be infused about the ethics of sports and the ethics of health. And here comes the self pride. We call it as the Swabhiman. You know, it is not about the athlete who is involved in this. It is about the athlete himself, his coach, his family, his state, the country at large. So everything is put on stake. So we have this National Anti-Doping Agency, we have this Indian Society of Sports and Exercise Medicine, we have this lot of health group, we have this the 24/7, the phone lines are open, and you can always, as Dr. Ashok Ahuja at his initial talk said, you can always contact us, talk to your coach. If there is any problem, you can always feel free to speak to us, so that, you know, like the things are clear, and you don't do it all by yourself, and you may finally land up with an positive case. So this is all about the doping education.